Welcome to another episode of Football Analytics Show. My name is Ed Fang, your host. And on this episode, I am pumped to have Ryan Noonan on the show. He's officially the content manager at BetSperts. He hosts a 4for4 podcast, Move the Line, but he's really the NFL tackle prop expert of the world. And today we're actually going to talk about the Masters. Ryan, welcome to the show.
So good to be back with you, buddy. One of my favorite times of the year. April's fantastic. I mean, we're both kind of in the NFL winter. We miss betting on the league for sure, but NFL draft at the end of the month, and then the Masters, I think, is not just a fantastic golf course tournament, but I think it's a great and unique betting opportunity too. So I'm excited to unpack it with you today.
Can't wait. But before we get into that, the Football Analytics Show is brought to you by the Power Ranks Sports Betting Newsletter. Looking for some action on any given weekend? This is the free service for you. As 5 Nugget Saturday is my curated list of tips and analytics. I bring you sharp insights from people like Ryan Noonan. To sign up for free, go to thepowerrank.com. Ryan, before we get into numbers, just give us a sense for what this week and the Masters means to you.
Well, it's a real unique tournament because in terms of we have 4 major tournaments, technically the majors actually, right, for the world of golf. But it is the only one that comes to the same venue every year. It's Augusta National. We know it like the back of our hands. It has evolved over the years. They continue to stay on the forefront of, golf course design, trying to make sure that they stay up with the times and evolve with the technology, right? The golf ball is better than it was, back in the 30s. These drivers, nowadays have evolved to a place where, to have a course like this to stand the test of time is really, really, really cool. And, you're here in the Midwest. I'm in the Midwest now too. I grew up in the Northeast, and the Masters in a way, and again, I'll get into like all of the cliche nostalgia stuff here. So fast forward for the next 60 seconds if it's not for you, because I am a sucker for all this stuff. It is it kind of rings in spring, tough winters here in the Midwest and in the Northeast. It starts to tell me that golf season, summer, shorts and t-shirts are around the corner. You can really start to, in terms of the calendar and the flow of life, really kind of signals the next step. It was a spot where, I wasn't a huge golf fan as a child, which is, I think, typically the arc that we see for, a lot of adults even now. I played in high school, but as like a kid, younger, say, 10, 12, it's not something that you're like following day in and day out. But the Masters on the weekends with my grandfather is something that I remember all the time. And just having the familiarity with the course, coming back to the same spot. There's just something that's so unique about this place that they do an amazing job of putting on a world-class event. And it is again, fantastic golf course. To be honest, the PGA Tour plays a lot of great golf courses in the course of their calendar year. We don't really play a lot in terms of what we have as a country. A lot of our best golf courses aren't places that host PGA Tour events. But Augusta National is both, host of a major, host of the Masters every year. And it is one of, if not the best golf courses in the country, in the world. And that's really cool and unique. A lot of golf courses that are in, the rotation on the PGA Tour are just, pretty standard. Not that they're not great places to play golf, but they're not as unique. They don't test the full game. They don't have all of the strategic elements that Augusta National has. So it makes for such a great week. And the app is amazing, to follow along. It's so easy. You can not miss a shot. The TV coverage is fantastic. So there's so many things that it just does better than a typical PGA Tour event week in and week out.
Awesome. How do you approach golf, and then the Masters in particular, from a data perspective? We're used to hearing about your very detailed process with NFL tackle props. Do any of those ideas translate over to golf?
Yeah, I think, and I was joking with you. It's my goal today to try to spark your interest, because I know that you're a data guy. You really have to be doing betting to the degree in which you do, and I think most of your audience does. Probably are golf fans to a degree if you're tuning in to listen today, but to sell maybe the more casual, golf data is incredible. It is fantastic. It is, an individualized sport, right? Like, there's a static ball sitting on a tee or, in the grass. It's really very easy to measure performance, performance versus your peers in that round, in that tournament, in that year. All of these things, the data is really, really awesome if you want to be able to, try to find edges. At BetSperts Golf, we kind of set out a couple of years ago, it felt like there was an opportunity in the space where there's a lot of good golf content. We had been doing some of that at 4for4 and wanted to really evolve into kind of the next spot because we felt like there was a data gap out there that needed to be bridged, and just really had the ability to say, hey, if we could create an ideal golf database that's not out there right now, or we can expand or improve on some of the things that we like that are out there, what would that look like? And it's been 4 years since we really first started. From a lot of people's vantage points, we kind of came onto the scene last year, can continue to evolve that process. And we have this officially licensed database from the PGA Tour. It's all the data that the tour captures on ground through ShotLink and all the different tracing and stuff that they have. And we've created filters that are unique that aren't out there anywhere else. It's really hard to contextualize some events that maybe a Scotty Scheffler or Rory McIlroy play in compared to some guys that are, way deep down the board that don't typically play, in every event, right? Like, Daniel Berger, Christian Bezadenhout. These guys aren't playing in all the main events that the big guys are. But strokes gained really captures how you do against your peers in that round. So when you start to look and kind of cross-pollinate tournaments, that can get a little noisy, right? Because Bezadenhout in this example is not playing against the top tier talent. It's harder, obviously, against the better fields that the Scotty Schefflers and Rory McIlroys are playing. And so through the rabbit hole, you can use different filtering to look at how does someone play against strong or very strong fields, or how do they play on long and very long golf courses when the scoring conditions are difficult or very difficult. That would filter out some of the maybe easier golf courses that the normal PGA Tour event that kind of fills the annual schedule that those big guys don't play. And so to really be able to deep in dive this data to get an understanding of, okay, how can I really compare what's happening this week when these guys all get together? How does, X golfer compare under these conditions versus just looking at blind strokes gain data, which is fantastic. It is better than nothing, but it doesn't really tell you the full story because what they were going up against that week isn't really the same. It'd be like saying that, looking at, building props for college basketball. If you're playing, UNH, it's not exactly the same thing as if you're playing University of Houston, right? So being able to contextualize the matchup and the course and different things like that, I think are really important, and the rabbit hole allows you to do it.
So let's just go back a little bit. You talked about the PGA Tour data, strokes gained. Maybe give us a quick explanation of exactly what goes on with that data and strokes gained.
Yeah, it's simply measuring what a player in these key stats. It is basically, there's what they would consider ball striking stats, which is off the tee and approach. Approach is your second shot, basically. Captures how you play around the green, which is basically if you miss the green, how you like chip and putt. So those are kind of the main. So around the green, putting, approach, and off the tee. Those can be captured into like short game, which is around the green and putting, ball striking, which is off the tee and approach, and then tee to green, which is basically everything except putting. It measures what a standard golfer would do in terms of his proximity, in terms of the number of shots he gets the ball into the hole from X vantage point, his ability to separate from his peers off the tee in terms of accuracy and distance. So some of the formulas that go into that are a little bit nuanced for the audience, but basically those main strokes gain buckets are separating you versus your peers on that hole on that day, in terms of how close you get the ball to the hole and how fast you get the ball into the hole from that spot. So it's a great way to just measure versus some of the old school stats like greens in regulation. Still a great stat. Still, there's some predictiveness to it in terms of getting the ball on the green on your second shot or your third shot on a par 5. Putts made, that's really noisy, right? I don't know how long it took you to get there, or if you miss the green and you had to chip. So your first putt is from 5 feet versus if you hit a great approach shot and you have to have a 25-foot putt. Putts don't really tell us a great story. Driving accuracy, probably the worst stat that we have out there. It is, I think, completely useless. It is a binary yes, no stat that tells you, did you hit the fairway or did you not hit the fairway? Versus like we have distance from the edge of the fairway is a stat that we have in the rabbit hole database. It tells you a significantly better story because you're really trying to capture, like, did you keep the ball in play off the tee? Do you still have a second shot with a path to the green to keep yourself in play, to give yourself scoring opportunity? So strokes gained is just a great way to measure how you played that day versus your peers under the same conditions, and adjust basically plus minus above or below field average for that day.
And then the rabbit hole product that you guys have, it allows you to filter in a way that makes the strokes gain data better than where you could just get it off the PGA website.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, you can look at anything through the PGA Tour website. That's where we're pulling the data is pulled from us on the back end through our partnership with them. But the filtering that you can look at, I want to look at strokes gained total at major championships in the last 5 years or 1 year or all time. That's going to be something that you're not going to be able to do through just clicking through the PGA Tour. Or I want to see, again, like I said, how are you playing in the last 36 rounds on long and very long golf courses with difficult and very difficult scoring conditions? That's going to tell you something significantly different than just looking at, oh, this guy over the last 24 rounds is gaining 2 strokes on approach. Well, you know what? He didn't play against any of these elite guys. He didn't qualify for any of the signature events. He hasn't played in anything that really matters or where the big guys are playing. So he was beating up against kind of weaker fields, which is good. You'd rather have him do that than not, and you can capture that data on the PGA Tour. But it doesn't really help you in terms of trying to project the next coming week, right? It's very much descriptive of what happened that week. We're trying to take some very descriptive data and find a more predictive element through contextualized filters and conditions, and the rabbit hole allows you to do it.
And then does it come up with kind of advanced analytics that give you win probabilities and so on?
We have projections that are separate from that. What the rabbit hole allows you to do is to basically customize and build a model. So any of these stats through any filtering, you can simply, there's a little plus button in the category. You hit plus and add it to your mixed condition model. And when you're done, you've added all your different stats that you want to capture for the week. You can go in very simply and weigh them. Basically, we're trying to make the modeling thing really, really simple for people. It's very intimidating. It's a massive, massive, overwhelming database. The word modeling is very much something that can scare some novice people that are coming around and are like, hey, I don't really know what I'm looking for. We do build a lot of content around it to try to help people see how easy it is, but you can keep it really simple. Right? You don't have to build a rabbit hole data model with 15 to 20 inputs. You can keep it really simple. You can build a 2-input model. You can build a 5-input model. We try to do, I think, simple the better, because a lot of times you get into double counting and there's a lot of overlap in some of the stats. We want to make it really easy to try to help people kind of cross names off a list when you're trying to build a betting card or DFS player pool, or to kind of get some confirmation bias on the guy that maybe you liked or were leaning that way, and then he pops really well in your model. So we try to have different ways for people to utilize the data. And again, you can just use it and you don't have to build a model, but you can just kind of kick around through filtering too, because it's significantly better. There are great sites out there. I absolutely love Data Golf. They have so many cool ways that you can look at different things, but you're looking at strokes gain data that's kind of flat compared to whatever was going on that day. It doesn't really adjust as much for field or specific stuff that we're looking to do through the rabbit hole in terms of like majors, difficult golf courses, all those different things.
And then some of these live guys aren't playing on the PGA Tour, so it's going to be a little bit harder to get an accurate read on them, right?
It is. So that's one of the struggles. We have live data. We don't have it manually in the rabbit hole. We have it for subscribers on the site, but it's hard because, first of all, it's a 3-round, 54-hole, 54-man. I don't know. It's not fair to call it exhibition golf, but it's very unique. They're also not playing on very challenging golf courses. They did play at Doral as their tune-up for this year's Masters, which is a very difficult golf course. Used to be in the PGA Tour rotation. For the most part, they're playing on some really like pitch and putt muni type places that are fairly easy. And that's why you see these guys going into like the high teens, low 20s, under par for scoring on 3
Oh,
rounds.
wow.
Cause these are just really, really easy golf courses. So that's another element that makes it a little harder to kind of test some of the live guys, but the best guys in the field live wise are playing in majors for the most part. So we do have them against their peers from that vantage point. We get small sample because you're really only getting a handful of rounds each year. But the Masters is a little different. There is more predictive course history here than any other place, so it's a little bit easier to kind of handicap live guys compared to say we get to PGA Championships or U.S. Opens or the Open Championship.
Awesome. Ryan, you wrote this massive Masters player guide that you published last week. Give us a sense for, you're previewing lots of different golfers. Maybe tell us about some golfers that you're looking forward to watching and why.
Yeah, I would love for you to take the time and take a look at it. Again, it's I wouldn't expect anyone really to read the entire thing. It's literally a paragraph or 2 or 3 or 4 for the bigger guys on literally everyone in the field, even the amateurs, the old guys, the past champions. Trying to use lots of examples of sharing the data that we have in the rabbit hole in there as well. That kind of led to some of the handicaps that we have too. There are a few live guys in particular that I'm fascinated to watch this week. It is very much a storyline that is driven by Scotty Scheffler attempting to repeat, attempting to become the second guy ever to win 3 and 4 years. I think he is massively equipped to do so. You have to pay full freight in the betting markets right now is anywhere between like plus 450 to maybe 5-1 to win. And then Rory McIlroy playing his best golf, maybe of his career, which is hard to say because 2014 Rory was pretty special, but has won twice leading into the Masters. He has never done that before. He won at golf courses that aren't historically great fits. Rory really separates with his ability to absolutely pound it off the tee. He won at Pebble Beach, which really mitigates distance. And he won at TPC Sawgrass and won the Players Championship, another place that is designed specifically to bring everyone into the field. There's a lot of forced layups off the tee, less than driver, lots of different stuff like that really kind of takes away Rory's edge. And the fact that he won those 2 events makes him really appealing if he can obviously deal with all of the attention that comes with being one of the best players in the world that is looking at his 10th or 11th crack to win the last major that he has not win to kind of close the loop for the career Grand Slam. It's a lot of pressure on those 2, and they're sucking up a lot of the oxygen at the top of the board. I'm fascinated by Jon Rahm this week. Jon Rahm won this event 2 years ago, left for live. At the time was basically considered the best player in the world. He, Scotty, Rory, very much the top 3 at the time, and hasn't really dominated live. And again, he's not finished really outside the top 10 all year, doesn't really ever finish outside the top 20 on live. Well, how do you contextualize that? It's again, a 54-man field. They're playing 54 rounds or 54 holes as well. So it's, 1 round shorter and the fields are weak. The back end of that event, those live fields is really poor, right? There's some good top end talent in those fields, but the back end is really problematic. So there's just nothing in Jon Rahm's game that makes me think he's still not an elite golfer, still young, has the entire package that we would need here. And again, won here 2 years ago, spotted the field 2 shots. He double bogeyed the first and then went out and won by margin. So I think Jon Rahm being 15-1 in the market right now just doesn't make sense to me. You're telling me he has, I guess, a third or win equity of Rory and Scotty, and I just don't think that's the case. So he's fascinating to me. I think he definitely misses high level competitive golf against the best of the world. I think he really despises not being considered one of the best golfers in the world anymore because he's not competing against Rory and Scotty week in and week out. And now that Liv has created this section where we have all these signature events where the PGA Tour is trying to force the best players in the world together. Rahm's not in that anymore, and I think he really, really misses it. So he's playing good golf. He's fascinating to me to see how he plays this week. So he's probably the top of the board. And then Xander Schauffele. Xander Schauffele has won 2 of the last 3 majors. Could be the holder of 3 or 4 if he wins this week. Missed some time early in the year with a intercostal rib muscle strain. But this is an elite golfer. You look in the last 2 years, strokes gained majors, comparing like 30, 32 rounds. Xander Schauffele is the best player in the world. He's gained 2.86 strokes total in majors in the last 2 years. He's won those 2 titles, as we mentioned. He's got multiple top 2s here before. So he went off the board last year at 15-1, where there were a lot of questions on, can this guy close? Will he ever win a major? Is he just like going to be the best golfer to never win a major for a very long time? And he went out and won 2 last year. And now we're getting him like 24-1. Now that he's kind of closed and figured it out. I mean, there was real discussion last year. Should Xander be the player of the year over Scotty? And now we have a spot where Xander's drifting out into the low 20s. And I think that's also just kind of too big of a price. Very interested to see if he found something in his last start at the Valspar. And I think he did. So he's very intriguing to me this week as well.
So why do you think you're getting such a nice payout on Xander, given all the superlatives that you've just said?
Because of the unknown, because he hasn't lit the world on fire since he's come back. And I think that's it. There's just a little bit of risk. I feel like it's baked into the number, but again, at 24 relative to where he's been in the past. So I think there's just unknown about his play. But again, this is a top 3, top 4 golfer in the world. Top 4, if you want to give Rahm credit to still be in that mix, I think that's probably fair. And he should not be priced as like the 7th guy on the odds board right now. So, again, there's definitely some inherent risk in terms of how he's been able to not get off the tee as well as he was last year. He was really dominant, added some distance, ball speed, all those things that really helped him, propelled him to those 2 major championships last year. But again, I just feel like this is not a guy that all of a sudden forgot how to golf. He was competitive in the last couple of starts. Actually had his best strokes gained approach week ever. This is an elite golfer for like the last 6-7 years. Had his best strokes gained approach at the Valspar the last time out. Strokes gained approach, if you're ever going to like just hone in on one stat that's the most predictive anywhere, it's approach. Second shot is the most sticky stat. It's the most predictive stat for success moving forward. And he has it in spades when he's dialed in, and we saw it that way last time we saw him. So yeah, I think he's a massive value. Again, not without questions and concerns, but I think 24 is definitely a little too much, baked into the uncertainty there. I like that number.
Awesome. So you're definitely seeing some value on Rahm and Schauffele. Are there any other bets you'd be willing to share?
Yeah, from a finishing, I'm going to step back. It's a unique event. It's a small field. Typically, I think we have like 95 guys now that Vijay Singh withdrew. And that's part of it too. We have Vijay Singh, a guy who won this tournament, in the early 2000s. You have a handful of just past champions who, because you win the Masters, you have the ability to come back and play every year. Those guys are not competitive in terms of actually winning. Them even making the cut is, an interesting opportunity for them. That's really it. Then you have a group of amateurs. This year we only have 5, but those guys, maybe you get an amateur to make the cut. Sometimes you get 2. It's not a great pool of amateurs this year. So now we're taking a pool of 95 guys, where we typically on the PGA Tour have 144 guys in a standard event. Typically we have these signature events now that have like 70 guys. Some of them are no cut, some of them are small cuts. But we now are removing like a pool of 15 guys or so that are non-competitive, that don't have a chance to win and really don't have a chance to top 20. And then you also have this other group of guys that, punch their ticket here because they won some random events in like the fall, and they have no shot to win this event. So now actually what boils down to a small field gets even smaller in terms of actual ability to go out and win this event or even finish inside the top 20. So looking at finishing position bets, top 20s, some books will still continue to offer top 30, top 40s. So the bottom of the board, those guys can get interesting. You can still find plus numbers there. And then to make the cut, people love to make the cut parlays at the Masters because, again, so few guys that are actually competitive that have a chance to win, like the top 25 of this field. It's really hard for them to miss the cut. It happens, but it's very, very unusual because the cut line gets moved so much by those bottom tier guys, right? It's going to be the top 50 and ties will make the cut this weekend. So you're really having so many opportunities that to kind of look at top 20s where it just doesn't take much. Like last year, even par got you inside the top 10. So like you just kind of need to hold on. Like Scotty won at 11. He won by 4 shots. He was 4 ahead of Ludwig Oberg, who was 3 ahead of the guys that finished behind him in a T3. So you don't have to go out and set the world on fire here to finish top 20. So there are some pretty good numbers. It's a unique event to do that. So looking at and I know some people don't love finishing position bets. There are some books that you can look out there that will pay ties in full. I think that matters a lot, especially when you get condensed. You want to get that dead heat rules in finishing position bets is an absolute killer. Some other names that are really interesting to me. I really like another live guy. I think Cam Smith is really interesting. Cam Smith has won an Open Championship a couple of years ago against Rory. I want guys that have had that smoke on a Sunday before. It's very, very rare for you to have not be battle tested, not even just like recently, but in a major championship, level field in that moment. I don't necessarily need you to have a major championship under your belt, but I would like to have seen you have some Sunday smoke on a major. So Cam Smith is available like plus 190 at multiple books to top 20. I don't understand it. His course history here is absolutely elite. He is one of these dudes that just has like magic beans on and around the greens. His hands are insane. His ability to handle chipping on these short runoffs that are unique to Augusta is something that really no one else has. If you look at strokes gained here at Augusta National over the last 5 years, only Scotty Scheffler has more and a higher average strokes gained than Cam Smith over the last 5 years. Last year, into the lead-in event at Doral on Live, he withdrew, wasn't playing well, and then still came to the Masters and finished T6. So now we're getting him at almost 2-1 to top 20. He's one of my favorite outright bets on the board at like 70-1. Even high 60s. I think he's fine. I love almost 2-1 for Cam Smith to top 20. Something he's done all the time. He's played really well, in the fall to lead in. I think it's a really nice number for him. Some other guys that I haven't mentioned here. Bobby McIntyre, available at the top 20 plus 150. Playing really good golf. Plays most of his golf on the DP World Tour early in the year, but plays a little bit on the PGA Tour. Last time we saw him, he finished inside the top 10 at the Players Championship and T11 at Bay Hill, which is a really difficult golf course, long golf course, trying test. He's played the Masters twice before, finished T12 and T23. He's playing even better than that this year. And he's a lefty. And this is a place that has favored left-handers in terms of shot shape. Historically, we see Bubba Watson with 2 championships. Phil's won 3. Mike Weir, had a run 2 decades ago, was maybe a top 10 golfer in the world. He's won the Masters. He's had some other competitive finishes here. So Bobby Mack, top 20 at plus 150. I love quite a bit. And I'll give you one more in the matchups. I know people love matchups. I don't do them quite as much, but I want to find opportunities to bet against Bryson DeChambeau. People love Bryson. I get it. Chicks dig the long ball. The guy hits it a mile. You want to go at Bryson and bet on him at PGA Championships, at US Opens. Those are great fits for Bryson. Bryson took advantage of a very soft golf course at Augusta National last year, was your first round leader, but faltered when the course got firm and fast as the week went on. This place is going to be baked out this year. It's not going to be wet. They got rain yesterday, but it has a sub-air system underneath the course. They can suck the moisture out of this place and have it in the conditions they want. They couldn't do it last year because they got rain like in tournaments, a little harder for them to do. But Bryson on a firm and fast golf course with these shaved runoffs, like he's an elite driver of the golf ball, but he really struggles on these greens and chipping on these greens. A lot of golf courses, especially at US Opens and PGA Championships, they put that big, thick apron of rough around, and that's a little bit more predictable. Guys know how that ball is going to bounce out. There's a lot of skill at being able to chip off of really short shaved runoffs when you miss the green into elevated greens. He has historically struggled mightily here on and around the greens. I think we get more of that this year. So you can find matchups with Xander Schauffele, who I've already shouted out. Xander plus 110 on a 72-hole matchup, ties voided against Bryson. It's a really nice number. Bryson's minus 143 against Xander. That makes no sense to me at all. I like Xander up against Bryson. I want to find other ways to find elite golfers, Rory, Scotty, Rahm in Bryson markets.
Awesome. There, obviously, you should go shop around for the best prices on and anything you just talked about. Are there particular books that you find have particularly good prices?
Yeah, it's a struggle. I know, limits are hard for everyone. Unfortunately, FanDuel is pretty competitive, and I know FanDuel is pretty good for most people to be able to get down. Caesars rarely has the best price, but I know limits are a little bit better there for people. Of course, DraftKings has the best offering, but they're just not as serious. But they just don't take anything, unfortunately. It's the same thing with BetMGM, which is tough for almost everyone. The good thing with MGM, if you can get down there at all, they do have a with ties market. We've seen other books start to offer that, especially in finishing position markets, where they'll price a market with ties and without ties. I'll lose a little bit of the best number to take advantage of the with ties market. If you like, betting winners outrights, which I do, again, these are both very difficult books for some people because Bet365 and Bet Rivers, which aren't everywhere and sometimes just won't stake a full bet for people, do have each way offerings. Each ways are an interesting bet type. Basically allows you, it's two bets in one. You would bet the player to win at the price, and that same stake would be matched. So say you would want to bet John Rahm at 15-1 to each way. So you would bet $100, take $100 bet. It'd be 50 on him to win at 15-1, and then to be 50 on him to finish based on whatever the each way offering is. So it would be typically a fifth of the odds. So it would basically be 3-1, covering 6 to 7 positions. So if Rahm doesn't win, but still finishes in the top 7, you would still get paid out a fifth of the stake or a fifth of the odds that you originally bet into. So in this instance, it'd be 3-1. So it's different. It's a way to cover like, hey, my guy was in the mix, but didn't actually win. Those each way offerings are something that I like to do, especially for maybe longer shots. A guy that I think probably doesn't actually have a chance to win, but I think he probably shouldn't be 120-1 to win. I think he'd be really competitive. I like to look at each way offerings because, again, that stake's not as high either. That also kind of helps with the books that don't take as much betting up front.
Ryan Noonan, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast to talk about golf analytics. Please let everyone know where they can get all your good work.
BetSpertsGolf.com. Promo code Azalea will get you 25% off any of our any of our deals. You can get it for a week, check it for a month, check it for a year, or Ryan Noonan on Twitter.
I wouldn't have no idea how to use that code. Can you spell the code?
Yeah, Azalea, Azalea. It is the unique pink flower.
Right?
That's
it's
all.
It's going to be in full bloom down there in Augusta.
For sure.
Awesome. Ryan, thanks again for your time.
Thanks, Ed.
You've been listening to the Football Analytics Show. My name is Ed Fang, your host. We will be talking, we'll be getting back more into the NFL this month as we get into the draft, maybe a little bit of NBA as well. I hope you stay tuned for that. Thanks again for listening.